Hello, welcome back to part 4 in my little mini kimono series. So in the other episodes, we went through techniques like folding, we looked at a basic kimono, we looked at knife pleats, which are all folds that go in one direction. We looked at box pleats where the folds go in the same direction as well. So this time we're going to use a combination of techniques because I'd like to make this kimono. It's going to be a half scale one for my little mannequin. And I'd like to make it with a little bit of drape. So I'll insert a clip of the source of inspiration that I've got, which is basically this piece of casing that I've made. I made it when I was at uni, and I made it so that I could play with drape. And that's what we're going to look at today. Come on then, let's get cracking now. Okay, so I've got 1/2 metre of fabric here. If we look at this piece of fabric, what I actually did was I used a ribbon, but the ribbon became the casing. So I'm thinking I might do the same thing, is just cut some strips and use the fabric as the casing, and that way I'm not wasting any fabric. The fabric's nice and wide, so I've got quite a bit to play with. So I've ironed the fold. You guys have probably heard me say before, when we iron the fold, it acts as a guideline for us. So I just want to have a quick recap on our previous basic kimono paper maquette, just so that we can refresh our memory of how we got there in the first place. So this is one of my earlier videos, and what I'll do is I'll leave a link down at the bottom in the description for you to be able to watch all of the different paper folding videos that hold along with this series. So I'm separating the fabric into sections, taking into consideration that I'm going to need sleeves. I may not have a neckband because I'm going to have lots of drape instead. So that's going to give me, this is me sectioning off. This small section here is going to be the sleeves. This larger section is going to be the front and the back bodice. So because I've got such a large piece of fabric, I'm going to make my fabric easier to manage by cutting it down. And I'm just going to iron that some folds in that to tell myself what these areas are. So I've ironed 2 folds in this fabric, one just here at the top that simulates the shoulder seam, and one at the front. And if you've watched my paper maquette video, we always put a fold in the front, and the top piece of the fabric is what we will cut up to this seam, up to this line here, and that's the entry and exit of the kimono. So let's do that now. And I'm not worrying about things like the selvages of the fabric or the cut edges. I'm going to embrace them, and they're going to become my turn and turn for the hem. So I've got myself a nice square here. I'm going to cut my square in half, and that's going to become 2 sleeves for me. So to get my halfway point, I'm just going to iron another fold in. So I've got a nice crease there that tells me that's the center line. I'm going to cut down the center line, and that's going to give me 2 sleeves for my kimono. It's starting to take shape as a kimono. So for now, I'm thinking about my piece of cloth and how I'm going to get it to fit my mannequin. All I've done with my cloth at the moment is I've overlocked all the edges. I haven't done anything with the front because the front I'm going to leave the selvage, and we're going to use that within the seam. I've overlocked the front neckband, and I'll probably do like a turn and turn, because by the time there's going to be all the drape, the focus will really be on the drape. So I have added a knife pleat on each side to bring the fabric in a little bit more, and now I'm going to put it on my mannequin, and I'm really just going to start to play and drape and see what happens. I have made up sort of the basic kimono, so I've added the sleeves and I have stitched the side seam. I've also given them a really good press. I have also ironed this folding that we talked about, this knife pleat fold, just as a starting point. And as well, the neckband, I'm not gonna add a neckband, but because I've overlocked it, what I have done is I've just turned it in, just so that I am able to just see the fabric without any distractions. So that's my starting point. So where to begin? The best way to begin with this is really just to start pinning. So I've got quite a lot of pins here in my little pin holder. This is my cute little pin holder. And I'm just going to start pinning and creating drape, and then we'll see what happens, what the drape looks like, and from there I'll be able to create the casing that I'm thinking of. And what I'll do is I'll insert a clip of a jacket that I made when I was at uni, and that had quite a lot of drape, and this has been like the source of the inspiration for me. So to think about my drape, where I want it to drape, where I want this casing to be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some mini folds that would simulate what the drape would look like. And all we're doing is we're thinking about the fabric. We need to be able to make the fabric look nice. We also need to be able to control the amount of fabric that we've got. So this really works if you've got a long piece of fabric that might be, I don't know, 4 meters, and you need to gather all that fabric up and be able to control that fabric. So that's really what we're thinking about, is some way to be able to make gathers. I've also got a pleat here, and what I've done is I've pinned the pleating just here, because my thought is that I actually quite like, I like having the pleat quite loose and being able to drape. So that looks quite nice. So we're going to do the other side now. And the other thing that I've done, I've just ironed myself a little turn up fold on the sleeve, just to sort of finish the sleeve off, to gather the sleeve up as well. And I think that would look quite nice. I'll show you the other sleeve, the before. This is what it looks like before. And that's quite nice actually, there's nothing wrong with that. But I also need to make sure this long piece of fabric here, what I've got left, I need to make sure that I use all of the fabric so that there is no waste. What I'm going to do is I am going to cut it in four pieces, and I'm going to make sure that all 4 pieces get used in the places that I need them to be. So if we think about it, the casing is going to be in the sleeves, that's 2 pieces, in the sides, that's 3-4 pieces. So I'm going to cut this one. Got my rotary cutter here. I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to fold it and cut it in half again. I'll finger press the fold so that I've got a little guideline there for myself. So I know these are my 4 lengths that I have got to make my casing out of. Okay, so I've done one side just to sort of get it ready. And I wanted to show you this. I've made like a drawstring. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create drawstring. So I'm going to show you on this piece of calico, because if I show you on the fabric, the print just disappears and you don't see it. So the first thing to do is we need to have our fabric right sides to right sides. We're going to create the drawstring itself. And this is just a piece of stretch fabric, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that inside the stretch fabric, and I'm going to back stitch at one end, and I'm going to sew all the way down. But whilst I'm sewing, I'm going to pull the drawstring, so it creates this little encased effect, and then we end up with this. Because we want the tail end of our drawstring to come out the bottom, what we're going to do is I'm going to snip this end here. I'm going to place it at this end. So we're going to sew all the way up to this little cross point here in the fabric. So I'm going to pin it for now. And then what we do is once we've backstitched to there and bar tacked, you'll need to bar tack at both these 4 points here with your pin. So we're over at the sewing machine and I'm going to sew a couple of millimeters in. I'm going to backstitch, sew all the way up to my shoulders to seam and backstitch. So this is our drawstring. I've got a pin on the end, and what I'm going to do is I am going to feed it back through this seam line that I've just created. There we go. And if you look, it's like a little self-contained drawstring. And I've got gathers. So this is my little pleat, and I've just backstitched over it. So you can see there that the pleat's quite loose. I've done one side to start us off. I've also done the casing on one side, and that one's the sleeves. So for you, when you're planning this, it is actually easier to plan it straight on the stand and drape it, as you've seen me do today, because it's difficult to be able to work out where how you want it to drape. So it's actually easier to make a sample up like I've done now, like we're doing now. Make a sample and then you know exactly what's going to happen. So I will add some photographs in of the finished kimono and let you see what it looks like. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.